At the start of every live chat, I like to remind people that this case is about Abby and Libby and getting justice for them, and also for their families, and also for Richard Allen to get a fair trial, and for his family to finally find out the truth, whether or not he was Bridge Guy. For anybody who's new, here's a quick overview about my chats. In the chat box, I put on slow mode for 15 seconds between messages to cut down on spam. All types of opinions are welcome. Just be polite, or moderators will ban anyone being rude or commenting negatively about people instead of chatting about facts about the case. Click the name of an annoying person in the chat to block them. Type the @ symbol plus the first few letters of someone's screen name to reply directly to that chatter, but your messages will be public. By typing the @ symbol, that person will see their name in orange in your message so they know it is directed at them. If I don't highlight your comment, it does not mean I disagree with or dislike you. I never see hundreds of comments, which is probably for the best. Ha! In the top of the chat box, it defaults to show top chat, but you can click that to change it to live chat to see every single comment. I try not to curse, but can't promise anything. I look through the chat and highlight comments that people might find interesting, but I do not highlight comments that have curses in them. Some of the initials I use in my PowerPoint slides are AB is Andrew Baldwin, the defense attorney. B/R is Baldwin and Rosie. LE is for law enforcement. MW is Mitch Westerman. NM is prosecutor Nick McClelland. And PP is the Purdue professor who provided an opinion on the Odinism angle. Some people do not follow every single thing that happens in this case, so I do these live chats where I summarize all the legal filings that happened over the prior week or so since my last live chat. The biggest issue from the past week is the defense wants Judge Gull to not allow Richard Allen's October 26, 2022 police interview with Jerry Holman into testimony at Rick's trial because Holman did not read Rick his Miranda rights. Since there are quite a few people who watch my live chats outside of the United States, I just want to take a minute to define some of these terms. Custodial interrogation means an interview conducted by law enforcement during which a reasonable person would consider they are in custody. A Miranda warning refers to the warnings that police are required to say to a detainee based on constitutional requirements. The requirement came from the 1966 Supreme Court decision, Miranda versus Arizona, when the court held a defendant cannot be questioned by police in the context of a custodial interrogation until the defendant is made aware of the following: the right to remain silent, the right to consult with an attorney and have the attorney present during questioning, and the right to have an attorney appointed if indigent, which means cannot afford one. These warnings stem from the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and the Sixth Amendment right to counsel. Without a Miranda warning or a valid waiver of the Miranda rights, statements made may be inadmissible at trial under the exclusionary rule, which prevents a party from using evidence gathered in violation of the U.S. Constitution. While I was looking into the Miranda rule, I found out that the Supreme Court clarified Miranda in 2010 and implemented a 14-day rule to question suspects after they decide to remain silent. Rick signed his waiver on October 13th and was re-interviewed 13 days later on October 26th and reminded of his October 13th waiver. This 14-day decision by the U.S. Supreme Court was based on a case where a defendant invoked his right to have a lawyer, whereas Rick denied having a lawyer. So I have not been able to find anything that shows if the waiver is only good for 14 days. For people wondering what this 2010 case is based on, here we go. U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Maryland versus Schatzer, 2010, announced a new rule that permits police to resume questioning a suspect 14 days after the suspect's release from police custody, even though the suspect invoked the right to remain silent during their previous contact with police. Schatzer is the last name of an existing inmate who was in jail for one crime, and then he was questioned about a second crime. The investigator stated the Miranda warnings, and Schatzer invoked his right to speak to an attorney, so the questioning stopped, and the police closed the investigation due to a lack of evidence. 2 years later, more details reopened that second case. Schatzer agreed to talk to law enforcement and signed a written waiver of his Miranda rights, just like Rick did, and then he made an incriminating statement, and then after that, he asked for an attorney. His attorneys later filed a motion to suppress his statement, claiming police violated his rights by questioning him in 2006 after he had invoked his right to counsel in 2003. The case went to the U.S. Supreme Court in 2010, and their ruling expands the ability of police to conduct suspect interviews in ongoing investigations where the evidence builds up over time. The court concluded that if a person is in custody and invokes their right to a lawyer, they are shielded from police questioning for only 14 more days. According to the court, that time period is plenty of time for the suspect to get reacclimated to normal life, to consult with friends and counsel, and to shake off any residual coercive effects of prior custody. The court continued that a suspect can waive these rights. A voluntary Miranda waiver is sufficient at the time of an initial attempted interrogation to protect a suspect's rights to have counsel present, but it is not sufficient at the time of subsequent attempts if the suspect initially requested the presence of counsel, which Rick did not do. Confessions obtained after a 2-week break in custody and a waiver of Miranda rights are most unlikely to be compelled and hence are unreasonably excluded from the trial. So on October 13th and the 26th, Rick did not ask for a lawyer. You'll see in my summaries coming up, at one point he said, "I'm done." However, to me, saying "I'm done" is not equivalent to "I'm not speaking anymore until I have a lawyer." So it remains to be seen whether Holman was within the 14-day limit of Rick's first waiver of rights. In this filing, number 21, the defense said, either way, the beginning of the interaction between Holman and Rick in the interrogation room, when introductions are typically made and Miranda rights are always reviewed, is missing. In the 70-plus years of experience between co-counsels, this is highly unusual, especially on a high-profile case of this nature. So is it going to turn out that Holman was wrong? Or is the defense unaware of this 14-day rule that's been in existence from the U.S. Supreme Court for the past 14 years? So I tried to look up some procedures for Indiana State Police, and I found this one for custodial interrogations. This document was dated January 2015, so I'm not sure if there's a new update. Custodial interrogation process. So this is a guideline for police when they're talking to detainees. 1. Read, word for word, the Indiana State Police Advice of Rights interrogation form, or similar form or card, advising the person facing custodial interrogation of the rights provided by the U.S. and Indiana constitutions. 2. Read, word for word, the Waiver of Rights section appearing on the form or card used. 3. Clearly and plainly, without promise, threat, or force of any type, offer the person the opportunity to sign the waiver. When no printed advice of rights interrogation form for Miranda or a pocket card is available, the officer shall do the following. A. Advise the person in substantially the same language as follows. Before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions, and to have the lawyer with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you before questioning if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop answering at any time. You also have the right to stop answering at any time until you talk to a lawyer. Or B, secure a waiver by asking in summary the following. Did you hear this statement of your rights? Do you understand what your rights are? Are you willing to answer questions and to make a statement at this time? So April 15th, the defense filed a motion to suppress the accused, Richard Allen's, second statement. This was a fairly long document, and I have quite a few PowerPoint slides summarizing it. So Baldwin and Rosie want to suppress all statements from Rick's October 26, 2022 interrogation by Jerry Holman, who failed to read Rick his Miranda rights while yelling, swearing, lying, and attempting to intimidate Rick behind a closed door in a tiny interrogation room. A key portion at the beginning of the video is missing, when Miranda rights should have been read. So before they got to the October 26th interview, Baldwin and Rosie revealed some details about Rick's first interrogation on October 13th, 2022, which was the infamous day that police showed up at his house. October 13th, 2022, law enforcement requested Rick go to the Delphi Police Department to answer questions. He thought he was assisting them in solving the Delphi murders since he had been on the trails earlier in the day. Quote, Rick wanted to help out any way he could, and that is clear in the video, end quote, which was previously provided to Judge Gull with the Franks memo last September. The defense continued, the October 26, 2017, but it was 2022, they made a mistake, interview is being sent to Judge Gull overnight. Tony Liggett was a detective and now he's the sheriff of Carroll County, and Mullen was the former Delphi police chief, but now he's an investigator for the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office. So on the 13th of October 2022, Liggett and Mullen read Rick his Miranda rights, and Rick signed an advisement of rights form, which is normal protocol before an interrogation begins. For the first 3/4 of the interview, it is apparent Rick believed he was assisting police in their investigation, but it became obvious police were pointing the finger at Rick as the killer. Rick said, quote, "I don't want to be somebody's fall guy, and we're going to try to make pieces of a puzzle fit somewhere they don't fit so we can close this thing. ... I'm not saying you guys, please don't think I'm questioning your integrity. That's not what I'm saying," end quote. When Liggett and Mullen's questioning became more intense, Rick said, quote, "It's over. I was perfectly fine. I was cooperating. I was going to give you my phone, and then, when you started reading all these documents, here's my thing is, I feel like you guys think I'd done this, so I'm done. You do what you need to do. It's your job. I understand that, but you better effing leave my reputation out of it. So you do what you need to do, and then, like I said, when you do find this guy, I'll expect the apology," end quote. Rick described how police were trying to ruin his reputation by accusing him of the murders in public, even groping him as they patted him down in the street. Rick eventually made it clear he no longer wanted to talk and left the interrogation room. Within hours, Liggett drafted an affidavit for search warrant, which Judge Diener signed, and Rick's car was also seized. Balder and Rosie are not seeking this October 13th interrogation be suppressed. I added, which documents was Rick referring to that law enforcement read to show Rick he may be guilty? Why would this man, the defense said is innocent and has nothing to hide, and who has a daughter who went to the trail, not want to do whatever it took to show law enforcement he was innocent and there was nothing incriminating on his phone? The next section was titled Second Interrogation. So on October 13th, Rick and his wife asked when Rick's car could be picked up and were told in a couple of days. A few days later on the 17th, the Allens contacted Indiana State Police about the car because it was difficult for them commuting with 2 jobs and only 1 car. On October 26th, the Allens arrived at West Lafayette State Police Post at 9 a.m. to get Rick's car, but were not told about additional questioning. Holman said he wanted to clear up a few things with Rick in the interrogation room without his wife. The video provided to Balder and Rosie is missing the beginning when procedural matters are typically handled, such as reading of Miranda and stating the suspect is free to leave. Either the camera was turned on after Rick and Holman sat down, or it was edited out when Balder and Rosie got it in February 2024. This is unusual, and Balder and Rosie have not been given an explanation. I added, why wasn't this video handed over in December 2022 with the first discovery batch? Why wouldn't Balder and Rosie specifically request this video immediately instead of waiting 15 months after they were Rick's attorneys? Did they get a transcript and they were okay with that? If I was Rick's attorney, I would have wanted to see the videos of his October 13th and 26th interrogations as soon as possible. I understand that law enforcement and the prosecution has been extremely slow and possibly shady in turning over this various evidence. However, this October 26, 2022 video was recorded less than a month before Balder and Rosie became Rick's attorney. So why would it take until February 2024 to hand over the video, according to Balder and Rosie? So a few days after the 26th, on November 1st, Holman typed up a report and he stated, quote, "I asked Mr. Allen if he remembered the other detectives reading him his Miranda rights, and he said yes. I told him he was free to go at any time and that the door was unlocked," end quote. But Holman did not identify the other detectives or how or where they reviewed Miranda with Rick, and the discovery has no Miranda or waiver of rights form signed by Rick on October 26th, only on the 13th. Baldwin and Rosie listed other missing evidence from this case, such as the Odinist B.H.'s February 2017 video interview with that whole first week of missing interviews. Also B.H.'s Facebook post with, quote, "the mimicked crime scene," end quote, and Rick's audio tape statement to the conservation officer outside the grocery store soon after the murders. Holman lied, and the evidence is missing. Rick was placed in a tiny room without windows, and the door was closed by Holman. Quote, "A considerable size difference existed between Rick Allen and Jerry Holman," end quote, and there was a power differential between the Indiana State Police trooper and the CVS worker who only went there to pick up his car. Rick was never told he was being videotaped. When Holman left the room, he told Rick to sit tight and hang on 1 second at the 9-minute, 16-minute, and 45-minute spots. In other words, Holman told Rick he could not leave, and then he shut the door. Holman also lied to Rick based on the following quotes from the interview. We have experts that say that's you on the bridge and that's your voice on the video. Experts are saying that's you on the video. Experts are saying you said down the hill. Witnesses saw a gun in his pocket. I wrote, which witnesses? Did Rick reply about the 3 girls he saw around 12:05? Here are some more alleged lies by Jerry Holman. I'm not lying to you about anything. Everything I'm telling you is fact. That experts say you said go down the hill. I'm not lying to you, Rick. That's unethical. Oh. From what I've heard, police are allowed to lie in these interrogations. Baldwin Rosie said, there is no evidence that supports those claims. A few more quotes by Holman. The prosecutor and the other investigators, ... they want to see you, ... lock you up and throw away the key. If you don't tell me, you're going down for this. Do you realize the death penalty is on the table for this? Holman cursed at Rick, accusing him of the murders. Rick asked to stop and said, quote unquote, I'm done, at the 12-minute mark, but Holman continued. Law enforcement never gave the car to Rick's wife. It was a way to get Rick to the police post to be interrogated before his arrest. The defense labeled the next section, the law. Baldwin Rosie referenced an Indiana case from 2019 when the accused had voluntarily driven to the police station to answer questions concerning an allegation. The accused was interrogated in a small room, failed to provide Miranda warnings, and was told to sit tight, similar to Rick. The Indiana Supreme Court ruled that constitutional rights had been violated, therefore suppressing the statements made during that interrogation. Rick, quote, denied having anything to do with the murders, as well as words to the effect that Holman had made up his mind, so go ahead and arrest me. Holman never told Rick, you are not under arrest, end quote. Holman repeatedly told Rick to explain what happened and attempted to coax Rick to talk to him for a variety of reasons. Holman said the prosecutor and law enforcement believed Rick was involved in the murders. His questions were accusatory, not exploratory, such as the following quote by Holman, which I removed like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 F words. So Holman said to Rick, you're going to drag your wife and your daughter through this because you're too bullheaded to get out in front of this and admit you made a mistake. And whatever the F happened out there, we'll never know because you're too big of a... It was inaudible what Jerry Holman called Rick. In this next section, the defense included some back and forth between Holman and Rick. Holman said, the evidence clearly indicates you are involved in this. Rick said no. Holman said, it does. Rick said, it doesn't. I'm telling you that there is no way that a bullet from my gun was used in these murders. Holman replies, and I'm telling you that we had this round on February 14th, 2017, and it's been secured in a laboratory and we've tested other guns. Rick said, you could have taken it from somewhere else then because it's not possible. Holman said, I did not take it from somewhere else. It was logged in. It was taken. It was photographed. You think we took a round and threw it down by the dead girl's foot? This ain't TV. This is realistic. Rick said, I'm telling you I can't explain something like that. Holman says, and I'm telling you that analysts explain it. You can't get past this. So in the middle of the screen here is an important point. Holman said, and we've tested other guns. There's been rumors for a while that at least one other Sig Sauer, possibly owned by somebody living at the end of the private drive, had previously been taken for a few months and tested by Indiana State Police. And here Holman confirms to Rick that police took several other guns and tested them at the Indiana State Police Crime Lab. So it seems like the forensic scientist who tested them was not able to determine that any of those other guns could have produced the unspent round found near the girls' bodies until they tested Rick's gun. Even though the science may not be reliable, as a member of the jury, if the prosecutor says to me as a juror, we tested other guns from around town over several years, not a single gun came back as matching the round found near the crime scene until we tested the gun of the defendant. To me, that's somewhat powerful. In another interaction, Holman said, I'm not on video. Rick said, neither am I. Holman says 4 or 5 witnesses didn't see me out there. Rick said, me either. I wrote, what about the 3 girls around 12:05 at the start of the trail that Rick said he saw? Holman said, my round out of my gun was not 6 inches away from a dead girl. Rick said, mine neither. In an interesting point, Holman said, I don't think you're a bad person. And Rick replied, what kind of good person kills 2 people? Which to me, that reply seemed more showing Rick's innocence and not guilt. However, we'll have to wait for the trial to hear the actual facts against Rick. So then Rick got pretty angry at Holman at some point and said, "You're going to pay for what you've done to my wife. You want to F with me, but you leave my wife out of this. F. Leave me out of this." Holman replied, "No, you're involved in this. Your round is there, Rick." Rick said, "No, it's not." Holman said, "You're guilty of something. You're guilty, and I know it, and I'm going to prove it." Rick's interrogation was 2 hours and 41 minutes. Quote, "The questioning was sustained and drawn out over that time, especially when compared to roadside traffic stop questioning," which I have no idea why they put that in there. So there's a lot of talking in nearly 3 hours. What did the defense leave out that's incriminating towards Rick that they want to get this thrown out? Holman never said anything about how Rick could pick up his car. He was handcuffed and arrested after denying involvement in the murders. Rick did not make any statements that were not already known. The interview was Holman accusing and Rick denying. Law enforcement knew they would be arresting Rick, but instead of doing it at his home, work, or while driving, they wanted one more interrogation without Miranda. Holman knew that Rick had walked out of the October 13th interrogation, and it was unlikely Rick would answer more questions with Holman unless Rick felt he was not allowed to leave. Miranda would be a nuisance that would likely cause Rick to walk out on Holman. If so, Holman would not be able to secure a confession that he clearly wanted to secure on his own. Rick was subjected to a custodial interrogation. The videotaped statement of Rick provides a whole host of evidence that statements made by Rick on the day in question violated both his state and federal constitutional rights against self-incrimination. As I said before, what was said in the second interview that was self-incriminating and made Rick look guilty? If his statements made him look innocent, Baldwin Rosie would not want to suppress it at the trial. Can the prosecution still get a guilty verdict without this interview? So we have to wait for Nick McClelland to reply with some kind of response saying if this is true or not. If it's true that Holman only said to him, "Do you remember that you were given your Miranda rights 13 days ago?" And the result is this entire October 26th interview is totally removed from Rick's trial. Jerry Holman needs to suffer some kind of consequence and not get promoted but demoted if he cannot do something as basic as reading Miranda rights to the guy they think killed Abby and Libby, that they've been waiting 5.5 years to interview him, and they're going to mess it up by not reading Miranda rights, like one of the most basic things a police officer has to do. Added to the list of incompetency by law enforcement. But it might turn out that Holman was within the 14-day rule of Rick's waiver of rights, and Holman did not do anything wrong. However, my main concern has always been, who is Bridge Guy? And despite this possible mistake or shadiness by Holman on October 26th, even without it being presented to the jury at Rick's trial, I think there could be enough other evidence that could point towards his guilt. Finally, it was interesting to note that Holman, on October 26, 2022, told Rick they found this unspent round next to the bodies on February 14th, the day they found the bodies. A few months ago, Barbara McDonald was talking about she was hearing that they did not find it for a few days or weeks after the killings. But according to Holman, they did find it the day they found Abby and Libby. There were a few other filings from this week. April 15th, ex parte communication from James Beaverton and Savas Gunn, filed by Judge Gull. The summary is that one person emailed Gull saying that she should allow cameras and another person said she should not allow cameras at the trial. Savas, or however you pronounce that name, called Judge Gull a despicable human being. Have fun at Westville, Savas. Also on April 15th, notice of submission of supplemental witness and or exhibit list. There was 2 filings, one by the defense and one by the prosecution, and McClelland also turned over new discovery. Why is he turning discovery over a year and a half later? What else have they found recently? And is it something that's going to prevent the May 13th trial because the defense needs more time to look into it? On April 18th, court has received requests for recording of court proceedings by Wish TV and denies same, filed by Auntie Gull. Basically, it's her saying it's none of your business. And on April 19th, defendant's notice of submission of supplemental witness list to the state, filed by the defense. The actual list is private, so we do not know who the defense or the prosecution will be calling to testify at the trial. That's it for the summaries, and now I'll get to your comments. Hey, y'all. Hi, everybody around the world. So I'll just get right into it. Thank you for joining, as always. Hi, Courtney. I'd like to discuss the lost tip. How lost, how found, what the heck is going on? Also, why did they move from the Carroll County something to a whole separate building for the Delphi case. How was it lost? That's a great question because it was in the FBI Orion system as tip 74. How does it get lost and how does it get found? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Hopefully, at the trial, it's obviously going to come up. Maybe by the defense are going to bring it up. Like, how did you mess this up? You did not follow up on Rick. So obviously, the conservation officer did not feel like Rick could have been bridge guy. But why? I know that the conservation officer is now, I think, in the Delphi Fire Department. So I don't know if he knew Rick from CVS and felt like, oh, there's no way this guy could have been the killer. We're still waiting to find out at what point did Rick call Carroll County Sheriff's or the tip line, because the tip line number I don't think was set up for a few days. So I'm curious to know if Rick did call the tip line, what did he say? And did somebody write down, which unfortunately law enforcement isn't known for writing things down and saving them. But did Rick call and say, I was at the trails, and did this person write down the time that Rick said he was there? Like, what about this phone call caused Rick to end up at the grocery store talking to the conservation officer? Also, how was it found? I don't know. I mean, we know the Wabash River search started mid-August of 2022. It went on for almost 5 weeks. And according to the PCA, on September 21st, 2022, the conservation officer's tip with Rick saying he was there, well, at least on this piece of paper, it said Rick was there 1:30 to 3:30. That tip was presented to Tony Liggett. And I guess within the next few weeks, they were looking into things and felt like, okay, what the hell happened? How do we look over this guy? And then October 13th is obviously when they went knocking on Rick's door. Why did they move to a separate building? I'm not sure. I've heard that Carroll County Sheriff's Office and the jail is like a dump, essentially. And they're going to have a new jail opening, I believe, at the end of this year, in case anybody wants to commit a crime in Carroll County and see what the inside looks like. Obviously, if Rick is truly guilty, it's a huge, huge mess up that has cost like so much negative consequences and millions of dollars of whatever, losing evidence like his car and phone data that might not be available 5.5 years later. A lot of problems, but we have to wait and find out to see what they found and if he truly is bridge guy. Hi, Tattoo You. Were the pressers, the press conferences on Rick's day off? I could have swore at some point I looked into which days of the week they were on, any press releases, and I'm almost certain they were almost always on a Monday. Obviously, this crime happened on a Monday. I don't know if it was any kind of significance or not. People have said, like Tony, I think it was maybe my Kegan Kline video where I referenced that because it was said that Tony Kline was possibly off on Mondays too. Neither Kegan nor Tony has been arrested for Delphi. Hi, the Silver Leaf. How can they not give the Miranda rights? This police 98. Come on, police, do better. Well, it's going to maybe depend if this 14-day rule does apply to Rick signing the waiver of rights on October 13th. If Holman knew that he still had 1 day left, since it was 13 days after Rick signed that and it's a 14-day rule, then Holman did not do anything incorrect. However, as some people have said, like, what's the problem with reading him the full rights again? We'll see. Hi, Roman. Courtney says, the 14-day thing is interesting when they said, you remember your rights to Rick. Why risk it? Who doesn't record the Miranda rights in interviews? Yeah, and like the first part of the interview missing, again, like, why is this a recurring problem? And not just a problem, but possibly intentionally deleting stuff. I don't think the first week of stuff deleted was intentional because like years before they even arrested Rick, it was known to be a problem that somebody messed something up. Hi, Big Bird. Yeah, lots of different opinions here. Just please be polite to each other. They know he's guilty as sin. They are grasping for loopholes. Well, I don't know. Well, I do think it's interesting that Walden and Rosie said Rick is innocent and has nothing to hide. However, at this point, they've tried to hide everything, period. Like almost everything, actually. Not his October 13th interview. The Frank's memo request was to hide everything found at Rick's house and his car. They want to suppress everything that Rick said and wrote in prison, and now they want to suppress the second interview. So if he's so innocent, why do they have to hide stuff? I'm still not convinced either way of his innocence or guilt, but I don't know. It doesn't seem it's not screaming to me that he's totally innocent. Yeah, how much time is left? We're at 31 minutes. Probably, hopefully, like 1 hour and 59 minutes. If I see that we're getting close to 1 hour and 59 minutes. Hi, Nevada Tan. I feel like we're all going to be qualified in law by the end of this case. I'm getting free education with zero student debt. Well, I'm hoping that we're all going to be able to at least hear the trial because there's no other time in my life where I'm going to actually be, I don't want to say this involved, but this aware of a crime and how the judicial system is supposed to work and how law enforcement messes up and lots of shady stuff happens on all sides. So I'm hoping to see the trial. We're still waiting for Judge Gull to decide if she's going to allow at least one main camera. Stay tuned. Hi, Die DZ. Wonder how many don't know their Miranda rights. Well, it doesn't seem at any point that Rick said he wanted an attorney. Obviously, it seems like he doesn't have enough money to afford one. I don't know whether that was a issue that prevented him during these two different October 13th and 26th interviews. However, I was interested to see that Rick actually walked out on the 13th. So honestly, I know some people might get triggered by this, but if you're if you're so innocent and have nothing to hide, like I can understand that it's frustrating to have the local police and the Indiana State Police say, "We think you're bridge guy, the person who killed these two girls in your small town." However, he's like, "I was going to give you my phone, now I'm not going to." So why is he like hiding stuff if he's innocent and there's nothing to hide? We'll see. Or will we? Hi, Sheridan. The police are allowed to lie to you insofar that isn't entrapment. Yeah, and I remember chat yesterday we were talking about is that acceptable that police are allowed to lie? There's a variety of opinions, obviously. Hi, SP74. It's odd that the defense complained about the interview room being identical to every other known interview room. Yeah, it was a little bit extra in their descriptions of it was tiny and Holman is bigger than Rick and there's no windows. Hi, Xtina. Spoiler alert, Rick never actually thought he was helping law enforcement. Yeah, it was mentioned by, I guess, in the December 2022 press release by Walden and Rosie. Rick thought he was helping law enforcement. As I've said previously, how are you helping law enforcement if on April 19th, 2019, right? Or April 2019, I forget which date. Too many dates. The head of the Indiana State Police said, if you were parked at the CPS lot between noon and 5:30, or sorry, noon and 5, please let us know. We're looking for the owner of a vehicle who was parked there. And Rick was parked there from noon to 1:30, according to him. It does not seem like he came forward again in April 2019. It obviously can be said that he felt like I told the conservation officer in February 2017 that I parked next to an old building. However, I guess we can all decide, would we go back to the police, which is 1 block over from our work, and say, I just want to remind you, I was parked there noon to 1:30. I did not see anybody parked there. Which, let's get to this point. To me, like, one of the biggest coincidences, like, I don't know, I guess you can say, is pointing towards Rick's guilt or whatever you want to say. So we're supposed to believe that Rick was there noon to 1:30, and I understand that maybe he's not. It's not like he arrived there at noon and left at exactly 1:30. So I'm open to him possibly leaving at 1:20. However, I would think that if you were on this trail by yourself for 90 minutes, where Rick said he was there and he only saw 3 girls when he got there around, he said he got there around noon, and he soon passed 3 girls near the start of the trail. So let's say 12:05. So for 85 minutes, he never saw anybody else, despite saying he saw vehicles, plural, parked at Mirror's parking lot. So he never saw the adults who parked those cars at the Mirror's parking lot. He never saw any other adults. So he leaves the trail around 1:30. We know that these 4 girls took a photo of the 2 sisters at 1:26 on bench number 2, which you can see bench number 1 from bench number 2. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So these girls never saw Rick sitting on a bench as they approached bench number 2. So Rick left maybe before that, if he's being honest. So let's say he even left around 1:20 to head back to CPS. So these 4 girls never actually saw him anywhere on the trails. In the 60 minutes between 12:30 and 1:30, the 5 of them were all there, Rick and these 4 girls. So he walks back to CPS around 1:25-ish. He told police in October 2022 he parked next to an old building. I know some people want to say that's the Farm Bureau building in the middle of town of Delphi. Sorry, no. Rick said he parked next to an old building. It's the only old building at this near the trails is CPS. His attorneys in the Frank's memos only said that Rick parked at CPS. So we're supposed to believe that around 1:25, Rick gets to his car at CPS. At 1:27 p.m. on the Hoosier Harbor Store camera, there's a car that police say resembles Rick's car heading towards CPS. So Rick pulls out of his spot at CPS, parked next to the building, whereas even witness 4, as she was leaving around 2:15 or so, 2:14, 2:15, she passed CPS and she noticed this car was parked next to the building. Whereas she said most of the time people pull right in. And do I have this? I don't have it. I'm sure you guys know, like, this parking lot. As soon as you pull into CPS, the trail is right there. So if the parking lot is empty, most people park right next to the trail, so you don't have to like walk further. So this coincidence that is kind of hard for me to get over. Rick pulls out from CPS building at around 1:25. We know these 4 girls are still hanging around near the start of the trail and see Bridge Guy enter around 1:30 to 1:35 from Freedom Bridge area, and it seems like he parked at CPS. So we're supposed to believe that Rick pulls out from the CPS building, and then within a few minutes, another person, Bridge Guy, pulls in to the CPS lot and also backs his car up against the building. He walks, and these girls describe him as somebody in his 40s or 50s, and it was not in the CPA, or PCA. One of the girls apparently was not interviewed, but this guy, Bitter Beat Poet on Reddit, also his name was Doug Rice. He talked to her, and her mom showed her a picture of this guy, Jimmy Dale Duvall, and she said, yes, he resembles the guy we passed, which resembles Rick. And Rick and Bridge Guy are essentially wearing the same thing. So to me, like, that's like a huge coincidence that's hopefully going to get clarified at the trial to see if it's true or not. Sorry, I'm rambling. What else did you guys say? How far behind am I? I'm only 30 minutes behind. Hi, living vicariously on a Harley Davidson. You mean to tell me that Richard Allen, don't want to call him Rick, didn't even have a nice view outside while being interviewed? No comment. She-Elf Johnson is not sure that She-Elf trusts the defense when they say they did not receive something. Well, it's been proven a few times that they've had stuff. However, there is a ton of evidence. Also, it's been proven that the prosecution and law enforcement has been extremely slow, which is a total understatement, in handing over this evidence. And as I just said before, McClelland in the past week said there is even more new discovery that he's handing over. So how much is it, and what is it, and why did it take so long to turn it over? Hi, Diana. Was Richard Allen patted down in front of the grocery store? I don't know where they would pat him down. I doubt it was the first interview at the grocery store. Also, October 13th, police showed up at his house. So why is he saying in public? Was it on his front lawn where his nosy neighbors were looking out the window and taking pictures? Oh, I'm not laughing. I'm laughing about the nosy neighbors, not anything else. SP74, how about the interesting code that accompanies the murder code on the charging documents? I've read it before, but I can't really say off the top of my head exactly what it was. But it's interesting to note to me that McClelland said they upgraded those charges, if you want to call them an upgrade, based on evidence. And they think that Rick is not just Bridge Guy, but the killer. So what are they going to present at the trial that shows that Rick truly was the killer? I mean, I think it's interesting to know that, I mean, I know people get upset if somebody says a confession, but April 3rd, according to the prosecutor, Rick admitted several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Not that he was just Bridge Guy, not that he was home by 1:45, but that he was the person who killed Abby and Libby. So hopefully in a month, we're going to find out these facts. Yeah, just to update, for people who don't know, Monday, May 13th is jury selection for the first 3 days. And I guess Judge Gull expects to start the trial on Thursday. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Saturday. She expects it to be done by May 31st, but a lot of people are wondering, is it going to even start on time if Auntie Gull keeps denying these various defense motions, like to suppress things? At some point, is the defense going to say, we want to delay the trial even further? Stay tuned. Sorry, I'm just looking for different topics. She-Elf said, I guess about the Rick, I forget, Rick saying his gun was not used. And She-Elf said, yeah, because he knew he used a knife. We'll see. There's going to obviously be different experts at the trial to say whether or not that unspent round can be linked to Rick's gun. But to me, as I just said in the intro, I think it's, as a member of a jury, I would be somewhat swayed if the police are saying, we tested other guns around town for several years against this unspent round found next to the bodies. The Indiana State Police forensic scientist kept saying, no, this gun does not match the crime scene, until they tested Richard Allen's gun. That's somewhat convincing to me. But I think hopefully, if Rick truly is guilty, there are a lot of other facts that can paint an entire picture of whether or not he was Bridge Guy and or the killer. I forget. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I forget what he's when Holman said that. This is realistic. Maybe he means like this is real life, not a TV show. Hi, Brandy. Thank you. Hi, not DB Cooper. I had said, I don't know why they put that in there because roadside traffic stops are custodial interviews. That's why they put that in there. All right, thank you. Hi, Miranda. Yeah, Miranda Lee and Miranda Freights are triggered that we're saying Miranda so much. How could police plant evidence on the day the bodies were found for someone arrested years later? I don't think they did. Some people do. Die DZ, we need to see and hear all the interrogations. Yes, we'll work on that for you. I'll do a live chat for 5 hours reviewing it. But I think Rick's October 13th, what I think at some point, maybe in the Frank's memo, it said it referenced a timestamp and it may have been around 1 hour and 25 minutes. So it seems like before Rick walked out on the 13th, he did answer some questions. Hi, Peter. Good day, mate. What a very revealing statement. Quote, you're guilty of something, spoken like a true tyrant. Well, that was on the 26th. So hopefully since then, law enforcement has found more evidence to prove if Rick truly was involved. Hi, Xtina. Something Richard Allen said during that interview gave them grounds for arrest. Well, it seems like it possibly was Rick saying, I never lent my gun to anybody, and I had never been on Ron Logan's property before. Is that one or two of the things that the defense wants to prevent the jury from hearing? What else in 2 hours and 41 minutes did Rick say that may have pointed towards his guilt? Obviously, from the defense filing from this week, they're not going to put stuff in there that points towards Rick's guilt. However, I did not see anything in these statements that pointed towards Rick's guilt. I felt like him saying, like, what kind of good person kills 2 people? That showed more like of an innocent response. However, as I've said, there are quite a few things that I need to have answered to make me feel like Rick is definitely innocent. Taco Bell cup time. Oh. I need to edit out all my annoying laughs. Thank you all for joining. Like, I see so many of the same names, so I always appreciate you joining and sharing your thoughts, even if I disagree with some of them. Oh. Courtney, wow, 4 exclamation points. I don't know what you're agreeing with. Have any authorities been held accountable for this crap? I've said many times that this investigation needs to be investigated, and not just internally by Indiana State Police, by an external agency, that's Luther Vandross Detective Agency. No, but seriously, like a lot of unacceptable stuff that truly, if Rick was involved, not, like I said before, not following up on this tip has cost millions of dollars. Can you imagine if Rick was guilty and they followed up within the first week or 2 and arrested him? Like all the 7 years of nonsense online and like these family members waking up every day wondering for 7 years or at least 5.5 years who did this and stuff. It seems like it was all unnecessary if they had followed up properly on Rick. Uh-oh, not DB Cooper is not happy with TW Webster. You guys, we don't have to all like agree and have the same thoughts to feel like our thoughts are relevant. We can have all different opinions. Tom is using Holman's word to fact check, but Tom knows Holman is allowed to lie. Why would Tom do that? Which one are you upset about? The 14th, the unspent round being found? Why would Holman lie about that? And why? I know that in the Franks memo, the defense was saying there's only like a photo or photos of this unspent round being found in the ground. There's no like chain of custody or a video showing that it was indeed found next to the bodies on the 14th. Hopefully time will tell and there is more evidence showing if there was photographs taken of this unspent round next to the bodies, and we'll see. I don't think it's like a huge conspiracy theory about this unspent round. Thank you, She Elf Johnson, and also Tom and hi Tom. Hopefully you didn't lose a lot of money betting on Purdue. I think law enforcement has clearer video than what we've seen. Well, why would they not release it if, like, for 5.5 years, if they had something better to get the public to identify Bridge Guy? SP 74, Rick did walk out on October 13th. Holman did not tell him he was under arrest before they talked on the 26th. So you're saying that Rick didn't know that he should have said he wanted a lawyer? I don't know what you're saying there. Sorry. Hi, that's the first time I've seen this. Tot L Jag 1. Rick will walk, aka on the trails again. So you think Rick is innocent, or do you think he's guilty and law enforcement and the prosecutor will screw up the entire trial? I want to know that this man who often went to the trails, according to the defense, how often did he go after the murders? I think most of us know, like the McCain brothers, their mom, I guess, was very involved in the trails, and so were they. They, I believe, went to the trails often, and both of them were there the afternoon, I guess after 3 o'clock on the 13th of February. Did they see Rick on the trails often before the murders? Where did he park? Did they see Rick on the trails often after the murders? Even if law enforcement was not able to get Rick's car data from February 2017, because they screwed up for 5 years, were they able to get data for like the previous 6 to 12 months? And does it show that Rick ever went to the trails in that previous 6 months in 2022? Will that be something that the prosecutor presents to the jury to say, why would this man who went to the trails often stop going? Or did he continue to go? And that's something that the defense will present. We'll see. Ex Tina, the defense has pointed out every time Holman lied, but they did not say a peep about his comments on the bullet. You're saying that it was false or something, that they did not find it on the 14th? Hi, Aiden, Clark, and Songs. I wonder how much the defense will lean into the Klein angle. I remember the murder sheet mentioning Kegan Googling a gas station in Delphi the day of the murders. Yeah, so Marathon is the name of the gas station. However, it's never been in a public filing either by the defense or the prosecution, or in Kegan's August 2020 police interview, they never brought that up. So if they had that data, why would they not say to Kegan, why were you Googling Delphi gas station on the day of the murders? Not DB Cooper makes a fairly good point, or I shouldn't have said fairly. Um, no offense. Or maybe they just blew off the tip because they had better suspects in mind early on. It seems like they thought Ron Logan was involved, which to me, I just don't understand still. If there's 2 dead bodies found on somebody's property, how is that not enough evidence to get a search warrant of someone's house that same day? Don't know. I don't know. I've heard some things about why they did not follow up on Rick, but there's a variety of different rumors, so I don't want to really say any of them. Oh, H. Nixon 83. Thank you for this first word. Kegokyo, in my opinion, led to the lost tip narrative. We'll see. As I said before, he's obviously never been arrested for anything related to Delphi. Xtina thinks that Rick and the conservation officer were BFFs. I mean, it could be something where the conservation officer did go into CVS and knew Rick somewhat. And if it depends when this all came out, the video and the audio of Bridge Guy. But we only see Bridge Guy with a hood on his head and a blue jacket. So if Rick interviewed, maybe, I don't know if it was in the morning or not. I've seen Rick wearing like a black and red jacket also. So he obviously has a shaved head. So if he showed up to this interview, which some people said he did not call, he just saw this conservation officer randomly at the grocery store, which maybe we'll find out at the trial. So maybe the conservation officer never felt like that man in the Bridge Guy video matched Richard Allen's, like his height, his hair, just his demeanor as somebody who could do this. Hi, whatever the hell your screen name means. Hi, my evil twin. Nevada Tan, I think that if they were trying to fit a guy up, they'd try to nail it on someone with a huge criminal record to get a load of cases solved. I do not think that Rick was falsely arrested and, as they say, a patsy just to like end this case, because law enforcement had no idea if Rick truly left around 1:30 and went to the local McDonald's or Dairy Queen at 1:45 and would have like a receipt on his credit card where he could prove that he was away from the trails between 1:45 and whatever. It is yet to be proven or shown by the defense any alibi that proves that Rick was home by 1:45 to 4 o'clock. We'll see. I'm very interested to know, because neither side, the defense or prosecution, has ever said that there's been video from around town showing Rick's car going back home. You would think that law enforcement would have included that in the PCA. However, I think at some point somebody did say there were thousands of hours of surveillance video. So we'll see. Obviously, also, the prosecution has been extremely slow in turning over this stuff. Hi, Lala. Perhaps they were so focused on Logan, they put blinders on to anyone else, or perhaps they're just morons. It could be a combo plate. Actually, it's not funny. Sorry. Hi, Michael. I'm not going to highlight that comment. The Silver Leaf says, tip number 74, eyewitnesses, video of Bridge Guy, bullet shell, and maybe some kind of possibly DNA. This case should have been solved 48 to 72 hours in. Well, that's if it is truly Richard Allen and they followed up on him properly. However, there's this whole issue, as you say, of the DNA. On November 22nd, 2022, like 5 weeks after they got Rick's DNA, I think through a water bottle, McClellan said, we think other actors may be involved in this heinous crime, or something to that effect, which to me, as well, one of my subscribers pointed out, does that mean that law enforcement knew that Rick's DNA did not match DNA at the crime scene? However, they felt like he was Bridge Guy and involved. We know that, like, obviously nobody's been arrested in the year and a half since they arrested Rick. So did they ever find out who this DNA belonged to? We've never been told officially where this DNA was found at the crime scene, on skin, on clothing, what kind of DNA. So stay tuned for the trial to see, hopefully hear exactly more information about the DNA and how the prosecution is going to explain it away. And obviously, I would assume the defense would try and make that point repeatedly to the jury. The DNA found at the crime scene does not match the defendant. Hi, Xtina. Thank you for being a member for 14 months. Rick had 6 years to prepare for his interrogation. Xtina is very smart, and she said, in case you guys have never heard this idea, obviously, this recent filing talked about Rick's car being seized by police for quite a few weeks. Xtina had a great point. While it was seized by the police, they should have driven it by Hoosier Heartland. Sorry, there's too many Hoosier things. Hoosier Heartland Highway is the highway. 300 is where Hoosier Harvest Store is, that had a video camera that captured a car resembling Rick's around 127 headed towards CPS. So Xtina said police should have driven that by Hoosier Harvest Store in the afternoon someday to show any kind of comparison to the February 13th 127 car. Does it show essentially the same car as Rick's? If so, that ain't good for Rick. If not, that's great for Rick and the defense. So I would assume if it does not match Rick's car, the defense will bring that up at the trial. If it does, obviously the prosecution will. Unfortunately, my member emojis don't transfer to StreamYard. Hi, Diana. Have you had any lobster legs recently? Magnifying glass. Will the evidence be strong? Will there be surprise evidence pointing toward guilt? I do believe that there's going to be stuff presented that a lot of us have not even thought about. Whether it's strong or proves that Rick is guilty remains to be seen. Sheridan says the lost tip could simply be one of those quote unquote clerical errors. Yeah. I know that the FBI said it was not their problem. However, Holman himself has said previously, one of our biggest concerns is that we missed something. So we go back. So how do they go back to the start of this investigation and not see this tip number 74 that says this man was there 1:30 to 3:30? Whether that's true or not, it says on this tip he was there when the girls were kidnapped and killed. Why is there no follow-up? To me, like, this is such a disorganized investigation. Although I am understanding that it was a huge investigation with over 100 officers involved from many different agencies. However, how do you conduct an investigation year after year if your evidence is not organized in one location? Apparently, you don't. Not DB Cooper. It's not a bullet shell. It's an unspent round. It still has all the parts. So from what I've seen is there's like 4 parts to a cartridge for a gun. I'm not going to get this right, but there's like a casing, and inside that is the primer, gunpowder, and then the bullet. So when the gun, whatever the hammer hits the cartridge, it sparks the primer, the gunpowder, and that pushes the bullet out of the cartridge. A lot of people call it a bullet, and I probably messed that up, but essentially, I think that's what it is. So the unspent round means that it was not ever shot through the gun. We've talked about this before, obviously, and police have said, like at the end of the bridge video, they believe they hear the sound of the top of the gun going back as a way to intimidate Abby and Libby to go down the hill. So I've speculated before, could this unspent round have fell out of the gun either at the end of the bridge, or did bridge guy, whether it's Rick or somebody else, try and intimidate Abby and Libby at the crime scene to undress? So he pulled back the top of the gun again, and that pops out a round because the next one comes up. So did bridge guy either notice that and then put it into his his pocket in his jacket, and while he was moving around the bodies and maybe putting branches on them, did this bullet fall out unbeknownst to him? Sorry. We'll see. Hi, Bernie. If I was innocent, even if I wasn't sure what the law was, I would ask if I were under arrest or could I leave. I'd tell them they're messed up and I'm out of there. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see exactly. Well, I doubt we're going to see this entire interview from the 13th or 26th, but maybe we will. Hi, Annabelle Stealth. I don't like Mondays. Yeah, this is an interesting point. So people have wondered if the conservation officer entered this tip number 74 into the FBI Orion system. And I don't know, would a conservation officer even have access to this FBI system? To me, my assumption, which, as I've said before, a CEO I once worked for, I said, assume or something. And he said, Tom, never assume. It makes an ass out of you and me. And I smiled. Then he turned around. I was like, I roll. Anyway, so I would assume that like the conservation officer and these other officers from different agencies who were helping out in the first few days and weeks, they would come back to, this is my speculation. They would come back to the headquarters and give like these pieces of paper. And it seems to me, like Nevada Tan says, they filed the tip under Whiteman or something, which was the road he was living on. Yeah, so Rick lived on Whiteman Drive. My assumption is, as he's talking to Rick, he wrote his name down, and then he said, like, where do you live? And he said Whiteman Drive. So maybe the conservation officer wrote Whiteman near Richard Allen. So it was filed under this man's name as Richard Allen Whiteman, because I guess whoever filed it into the system maybe thought Allen was the middle name. However, just having the wrong name or the wrong last name should not have prevented anybody looking into this man who said he was on the trails 1:30 to 3:30. Why was the only follow-up listed as, so I'm sure you guys know all this stuff, so I'm sorry if I'm rambling and repeating stuff. This 2017 tip from Rick, the conservation officer wrote follow-up, who were the three girls that Rick saw? Rick said he saw three girls near the start of the trail around the time he arrived. To me, this is like a huge thing. If there was never a group of three girls, I've never seen any proof that there were. And it's just odd to me that Rick said he passed three girls around 12:05 and another group of four girls passed Bridge Guy in the same area exactly like 90 minutes later. We'll see. Michael Westford, I'm not highlighting that comment. Courtney says, I hope the new jail comes with new leadership. We'll see. I don't know when the next sheriff election is. I know Tony Liggett only won. I think he had maybe 51% of the vote in November 2022. So I don't know. If you're a Carroll County resident, will you be voting for Liggett? I would not. Anybody who messed up not following up on this tip is not competent. Lisbeth was at the Cliffs of Moher a few years back. I'll be there in a few months, but I'm not going to get too close to the edge. I know some of you watching wish I would fall over, but whatever. Hi, Salty Beach. I want to know what he said that they want thrown out. I know. I'm sure the prosecution is going to try and present it. It's going to be, I guess it's going to depend on what Judge Gull knows about this 14-day rule and whether Rick's waiver of rights from the 13th was still valid 13 days later. Also, is McClelland going to file something this next week, which hopefully he's going to file a response to this motion to suppress the October 26th interview. Also, we're waiting for his response on Walden and Rosie trying to get rid of everything Rick said and wrote at Westville because they said he lost his mind, essentially. We're still waiting for Auntie Gull to decide on the contempt hearing. She has until the end of April. Also, she still hasn't decided on the Frank's memo request number 3. Imagine if they do a fourth one. Anyway, ex-Tina looked in her notes. Press conferences were always on a Monday, even his arrest press conference. Doug Carter likes to look fully rested, oh my God, before his TV appearances. We haven't seen Doug in a year. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. No, somebody lives close to Doug. Maybe they can ask, but anyway, if you know, you know. Corey wants to know, what's 98? Is that before Police 101? I have no idea. How far behind am I? Only 40 minutes. We're at 110, an hour and 10, maybe another like 50, 49. So for people who don't know, I'm doing these weekly live chats. Saturdays at 4:30 Eastern is a members only live chat, and Sundays is like the public one at the same time as we approach the trial, and there seems to be more filings. So I start just doing by summaries for people who don't follow every single thing. Hi, CJK. The truth will be shocking to many. It may turn out that they have a ton of evidence and it will be shocking. However, it might turn out they have hardly any evidence and Rick is innocent. We'll see. Hopefully. My main concern is that the right verdict is reached. That's all I care about. And people are saying, is this going to get delayed? I mean, Rick has been in this prison cell for a year and a half. Doesn't he want to get out of prison as soon as possible if he's innocent? So I understand that his defense lawyers have to have all the evidence and be prepared. But is he saying, like, get me out of here? And people are wondering, is this like leading up to Baldwin and Rosie saying Rick is not competent to stand trial? We'll see. But I mean, as of last August, Rick did sign this speedy trial request. And in October, he signed something that said, I want Baldwin and Rosie to remain as my attorneys. Which to me, I mean, that thing was totally written by Rosie and Rick did not write it. He only signed it. How is the defense going to say Rick is sane enough to say he appreciates us as his attorneys, but he's not sane enough at these repeated quote unquote confessions to 8 to 10 people, orally and written? We'll see. Beach girl, hello. Lots. Are you on Salty Beach? Miranda rights do not have to wait. Let me read this. Miranda rights do not have to read to a person of interest if they are not being or are already arrested and or in custody. Well, yeah, we'll see what McClellan says with his response, hopefully. And as I said before, like not reading Rick his Miranda rights, it seems to be just that this one interview would not be presented to the jury. It's not like this entire case will get thrown out because of that. What about me? I'm kidding. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Betsy. Hi, Stacy's mom. Stacy's mom thinks the defense is playing games. Well, some people love the defense, some people hate them. Hopefully, people in chat can get along politely. Tina says, I have no doubt the 13 days was strategic on behalf of law enforcement, and the defense knows this motion will fail. They just want sympathy for itty bitty Rick in his windowless room. Well, I looked again yesterday, and the forensic scientist at Indiana State Police, their analysis of Rick's gun was from October 14th to the 19th. So it was another week before they had Rick come back in. Obviously, they were preparing to ask him another round of questions. I wonder what his wife was like. They're like, let me just talk to Rick alone. And then it's like 2.5 hours later, she's still waiting. I feel horrible for his wife and family too. I'm sure they're interested to hear all the evidence at the trial. That one guy changed his name and he's still saying the same thing. I'm not going to say mean things about random people. Thank you. She L says, can we get Rick a cell that doesn't have any steel or concrete? I'm still waiting. I know there's like this huge issue, and it's a valid issue about like if you're for people outside the US, once you're arrested, you're supposed to stay in a county jail unless you can get like bailed out. But since Rick was charged with murder, the local rules state that if you're charged with murder, you do not get bail or bond or whatever you call it. So there's this issue where he's in prison where you're only supposed to go to prison after you're convicted at a trial. I'm still waiting for people to like give the perfect solution where Rick is supposed to be. And not just that, but how much interaction should he have with other inmates? And should he have a cellmate? I do not think that Rick can be interacting with inmates at a jail or a prison. So essentially, he has to be in a cell by himself, either at a prison or a jail. Also, if you're concerned about his mental health, which I am, I emailed, I'm so nosy. I emailed the Cass County Jail like a long time ago. Not to be nosy, but I want to like educate myself. Like how I said something like how often, actually I have it here. I mean, please stand by. Yeah, for people who actually care about what I do in this case, I recently just updated or uploaded my PowerPoint slides to tomwebster.com/Delphi. And right now I'm at 426 PowerPoint slides. So what you do, if you want, like, these are a lot of summaries that I've done for various live chats, which I just looked the other day and I've done like 68 or something of them. Oh my gosh, what is my life? Anyway, so what I'm doing right now is I'm doing Command F, or you can do Control F. What am I looking for? Cass County. Please stand by. I'm looking to see what this guy, the sheriff, replied to me about. I wanted to know how often do medical and mental health professionals go to a county jail? Sorry. This is one of the guys who testified at the June 15th hearing, essentially saying, I don't want Rick, but we do have room for him. He also said that the cell at Cass County would be smaller than Westville. Rick would not get recreational time, because if he's saying suicidal comments, I can't find it. Essentially, what he replied to me, so the Cass County Sheriff said, we only have intermittent medical health and mental health professionals come to the county jail. So if Rick's mental health is not well, why would we want Rick to be at a county jail where there's only a person coming in once a week, compared to a prison where he has access to mental health professionals 24 hours a day? I'm sure everybody has their own opinion. Hi, Priscilla of Boston. Your name is like so sophisticated. Are you bougie? Do you think, first of all, thank you for your generosity. Do you think there will be a continuance, which for people who don't know, it means a delay? I don't know. It seems hopefully the defense is going to be ready in 4 weeks from this Thursday. Time will tell. Hi, Marissa. Thank you. I'll try to keep it up. What am I doing? I'm working for the prosecution. Don't you know? Eye roll. Tina obviously thinks that Rick is guilty. The defense spends so much time trying to suppress their own clients' statements, never mind actually dealing with the evidence the prosecution has. Well, they obviously spent a lot of time making their work of art Frank's memo, stating that other law enforcement said that these Odinists are involved. And also, this is going to be a big issue at the trial. If the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit said they thought Odinism was involved in the murders, again, we're going to have to wait and see what each side presents at the trial. None of these Odinists still have been arrested, so what's going on with that? Well, Peter says, test other DNA emoji, eye roll emoji, kangaroo courts, kangaroo emoji, police person emoji. Thank you for always waking up early in Australia, Peter. I hope I don't trigger you too much. Stacy's mom said Rick and his wife owned a home, which they sold for about $252,000 in the past year. How did they say they had no money? Rick said he talked to a lawyer. Rick wrote a letter to, I guess, Judge Diener, the iconic Judge Diener, who's like, I'm out of here. You people are crazy. He said, he didn't say he was innocent, but he said, I'm throwing myself at the mercy of the court because I did not know how expensive attorneys were. Some attorneys are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I recently saw something where like somebody would charge like $800 or $1,400 an hour as an attorney. I don't know. Like obviously they wouldn't want to sell their house if Rick is innocent just to hire a lawyer to defend Rick's innocence. I do feel horrible for his wife that she had to sell it, and for Rick if he is innocent that their whole lives have been turned upside down. However, it remains to be seen if he is truly innocent or guilty. Hi, Thistle's last stand. I still think if Rick came forward before release of cell phone video, then he is guilty. If not, then on the fence. I'm not sure which flag that is. Sorry. Well, if he is guilty, was one of the reasons that he came forward because he truly did pass either 3 girls around noon. Well, not that would have been true. Sorry. If he is guilty and he passed these 4 girls around 1:30 to 1:35, was he concerned that they would have seen him at CVS or somewhere else around town and said, that's the guy I saw on the trails? And then how would he explain to police, oh, I never came forward because what? The defense is probably going to bring up at least 3 of these 4 girls around 1:30 saw this man and described at least his clothing, which they also said he had a scarf up to his nose, which that was not in the PCA, but apparently one girl at least said that. And he had a hood over his head. So the defense is probably going to say, how did these 3 girls never see Rick at CVS and say, that's the guy I saw? So stay tuned. And for people, a lot of people seem to get mixed up between 3 girls and 4 girls. So Rick said he arrived around noon, and soon after, near the start of the trail, like he parked a CPS, walked through like the circle at Freedom Bridge, and then started on the trail. There's a bench right there. And then there's bench 2 is where these 4 girls stopped around 1:26 and took a photo. The reason in the PCA that there's only 3 out of these 4 girls giving witness statements, which obviously a lot of people talk about, they're kind of different statements. The youngest sister seemed to be maybe walking behind these 2 front girls, and then the older sister was maybe back a little bit, according to some things that I've read. So the younger sister never really got a good look enough at Bridge Guy to even give like a statement. So there were 4 girls around 1:30-ish, and Rick said he saw 3 girls around noon in the same area. Stay tuned. Or it's probably better to tune out until after the trial. Tot L. Jag 1, you never talk to police if you're innocent or guilty. Always ask for a lawyer. If I was innocent, I would talk to police without a lawyer. I'm just being honest. Some people get triggered when I'm honest. Sorry. I didn't even read this. I need to start reading these comments before I highlight them. Hi, 393 people. Maybe another 30 minutes or so. I just really think the lost recordings are going to really come back to bite. They better have some really detailed documentation of other interviews. Yeah, I agree. But what I've said previously is if Rick truly is bridge guy and the only person involved, whatever other interviews they did for the first 5.5 years obviously never led to an arrest. So none of those had any relevance to proving whether or not Rick was bridge guy or whatever. I know some people are disagreeing. That's okay. Miranda says, I highly doubt we're going to be able to watch the trial. Yeah, Gull had a pilot program where she said nice things about the cameras in the courtroom. But however, obviously, this case is obviously very different. Hopefully, at least audio, but I've heard different YouTubers saying they're writing to the court and encouraging others to do the same. Auntie Gull doesn't care. They tried it, she denied it. Hi, Jessica. Since Kagan is cooperating, he won't face charges for Delphi. Well, for so many years, he never said anything about any kind of involvement in the murder. So why would he not try to use that to get lesser charges for CSAM or less lighter sentence? He's currently in jail, or sorry, prison for the next 40 years for CSAM, which he's appealing. Why not use, like, say, oh, I talked to Richard Allen, whatever, and I only gave him access to Libby or something like that, and I'm not the murderer. I was not there. Obviously, Kagan has never done that, as far as we know. Um, some people think that just because in Kagan's interview with police that police kept saying, we think there's two people who are accessing your device on, or the Anthony Shaw's profile the morning of the murders. However, police also said that they only found out that Kagan was behind Anthony Shots because they subpoenaed Instagram and Snapchat for Anthony Shots, and then Comcast, which is a internet service provider in America. They said the IP address is coming from Peru. As far as we know, they never said there's other IP addresses accessing this Anthony Shots profile. So to me, I don't think Kagan was sharing Anthony Shots' profile with other people. The defense has said that nothing in Rick's social media points towards a connection to Abby and Libby or the murders. None of us have found Rick's social media. So what is that referencing? Uh-oh, I'm 50 minutes behind? Let me skip over a bunch. Sorry to all these comments. Annabelle Stealth, was Rick being honest when he confessed? My issue with these quote unquote confessions is even the defense said Rick was mentally okay at Westville prison, alone in his cell, not interacting with inmates in like the general population or whatever for the first 5 months. They said they met with him March 24th and he was fine mentally. April 3rd, he makes this phone call at some point. It's the same day he meets with the intern and investigator. And then he makes this phone call where he tells his wife repeatedly, apparently, that he killed Abby and Libby. This latest, like 2 weeks ago, the defense filed something to suppress everything he said and wrote at Westville. These supposed incriminating statements, which it could be as many as 8 to 10 people. And they also said from mid-March through June. It was also said that written. So, like, to me, for over a 3-month period, just repeatedly saying you were involved in this murder, like what you're being charged with, to a variety of people, not just saying it, but possibly also writing a letter to the warden or something else. I mean, that's kind of hard to deny that that's somewhat suspicious. So stay tuned. Both sides are obviously going to present medical and mental health professionals saying why Rick would maybe start confessing to a crime he did not commit because he was so upset mentally being incarcerated for something he did not do. We'll see. Nevada Tan, I don't know if he viewed the video and identified himself, which I don't think so, but he admitted to being on the bridge and wearing a blue jacket. He said he wore a blue or black jacket and jeans and possibly a head covering and a hood, which obviously could match up to Bridge Guy. He said in 2022 that he stood on platform 1. We all know that witness 4 saw Bridge Guy on platform 1. However, she said he was young and had poofy hair, but she was 50 feet away. So we'll have to wait for her very important testimony at the trial. Hi, Caesar. Whose cars would have been at the Mears parking lot when Rick passed? Witness 4 did not get there until 1:47. Yeah, her car was seen at 1:46. It did not say that Rick, when it passed, that was in the 2017 tip narrative. It said he saw vehicle singular, but later they updated it to vehicles. It could have been as Rick was walking from Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge, and as he walked past Mears intersection, he looked to the left, and either that at that point or as he was coming back from platform 1 on the bridge, he maybe looked at Mears and said he saw vehicles. But my issue is he said he was there for 90 minutes, yet he only saw 3 young girls near the start of the trail within the first 5 minutes. And we know there's this group of 4 girls who took a photo of High Bridge at 12:43. And they came from Freedom Bridge. They passed all 6 benches. Rick said he parked a CPS, walked to the bridge, and stood on platform 1 to look at fish. And then he sat on a bench. He never said, I went through the woods or whatever. So how did these 4 girls never see Rick from 12:30 to 1:30 if he truly was there from 12 to 1:30? Yeah, like why didn't nobody else came forward to say I was parked at Mears between 12 to 1:46 or whatever? As far as we know, we'll see. Hi, Libby. There's so many things that don't add up. I just hope they have the right guy. I'm so not sure Rick is the right guy they've been looking for. Yeah, we'll have to wait for the trials to see all this evidence that the prosecution is saying definitely points towards Rick as the killer, not just Bridge Guy. And why is Holman saying, yes, Rick's DNA did not match the crime scene? However, he is the killer. That's what he said in his August 2023 deposition with the defense. He said something like, yeah, talk to your client. He's the one who killed Abby and Libby. So what has Holman seen that points to Rick as the killer that we have not seen so far? Tina says, I would bet any amount of money that Rick never told his wife he was on the trails that day. We'll have to see. There's a recent rumor saying that Rick was actually at his mother's house before he went to the trails. I don't know where that's coming from. I've just read it online, so I'm not sure who said it or where they're getting that information from. I've always wondered, why would Rick, if he went at 1:27, if that's him on the Hoosier Harbor Store camera, why would he go the longest way from his home? There's 2 other ways that only take 6 or 7 minutes from his house to the trail, or at least to CPS. You can go through town or you can go through Hoosier Heartland Highway. But the way he went to go past Hoosier Harbor Store is like 10 minutes from his house. So maybe he went to his mom's house somehow. But why is he there noon to 1:30? I've always said this, and it sounds stupid, but like, what did he eat for lunch? Not what specifically, what did he eat for lunch, but when and where did he eat lunch? If you're on the trails from noon to 1:30 and you're sitting on a bench on a 40-degree day, you obviously are looking at your phone. I mean, what is he doing on this bench for so long? He had to have looked at his phone to say, okay, I'm leaving now. So he would know if he was sitting on bench 1 around 1:23 and said, all right, I'm leaving to go back to CPS. And then the next day, it's huge news that two girls were found murdered where you were. Wouldn't you remember I left bench one around 123? So it remains to be seen. People say, how could Rick's wife not know that he was bridge guy? However, obviously, police never came to their house day after day, week after week, year after year. So if she had any kind of concern that his clothing matched Rick's and the voice matched Rick's, and he said, I went to police and I told them I was there, whatever, earlier in the day, and I did not see anything important. His wife, that whatever suspicion she had lessened over time as police never even talked to Rick. We'll see. Hi, Cindy. Rick said in the second discussion that no witnesses saw him. In the top narrative, he said he saw three girls. He lied. Behind on the video, if this has been mentioned. Technically, that's not totally true, I don't think. Holman says something like 4 to 5 witnesses did not see me, and Rick said me neither. However, if Rick's felt like he saw three girls, that obviously is different than 4 to 5. So technically, I would not say that he lied in that response. SP74 said Rick put himself on platform 1. Witness 4 saw a guy on platform 1, then saw Abby and Libby about 2 to 3 minutes later. Alan denies seeing Abby and Libby. Impossible. Yes, I've said for a long time that this does not make sense to me based on the 2017 tip where it said Rick was there 1:30 to 3:30. There's no way he was on platform 1 and did not see Abby and Libby. However, then it came out that in 2022, Rick said I was there noon to 1:30. So we're still waiting to find out which is the true timestamp. Hopefully, there will be some evidence that's very convincing. If his car data shows that he was there 1:30 to 4 o'clock, he's screwed. It does not seem to show that he was there 12:30, or sorry, noon to 1:30. It remains to be seen if that data was still available 5.5 years later, which he only lived like a mile and a half from CVS where he worked. So it's possible it was still on the car computer data, but I'm not keeping my hopes up either way to show his innocence or guilt. Tina says Rick's wife seemed like a social media addict, wanted every aspect of her life to be public. If she knew Rick was there that day, she wouldn't have been able to keep it a secret. Yeah, I looked at her Facebook and she never once said anything about the murders in her town. I'm not saying that points towards Rick's guilt or her guilt. However, her Facebook is missing posts. Her last post was December 2016, I think. And the next time was like 6 months later in June 2017. Did she delete any posts after a certain point? I don't know. Bernie wants to know, where was Jimmy Dale Duval at the time? Hope they know. He was a local, he wasn't from Delphi, but he also assaulted a child. I believe he does have an alibi. CJK says the defense knows a lot. They've seen things. They're very worried. I don't know. Why did Libredo, the temporary public defender, say he thinks that Rick is not involved at all, totally innocent? One of the girls was sacrificed, and he's 100% sure that Rick is innocent. What did he see during his 3 months or whatever as Rick's attorney to make him think that way? Courtney, did Rick get his wife's brother's motorcycle? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't know a lot about this, his brother-in-law. I do know that his wife's brother died within the months before the murders. We do know that a motorcycle cover was taken from their house on October 13th. There's various rumors about that, but I'm not sure. I don't even know if the brother-in-law died in a motorcycle accident. Not DB Cooper does not like me. A teenager's grandma, no, it's the mother of the girl who said hi to Bridge Guy, told a guy on Reddit, Bitterbeat Poet, that her daughter said that the guy she saw looked just like Jimmy Dale Duvall, who you think looks like Richard Allen. Yes, I do think Richard Allen and Jimmy Dale Duvall resemble each other. Bitterbeat Poet talked to this girl who said hi to Bridge Guy several times, or at least through her mother. He said he posted online before Rick was arrested. If Bridge Guy is arrested, I expect he will be short. He will be in his 40s to 50s, and he will resemble Jimmy Dale Duvall. And that turned out to be true. So we'll have to wait for the trial to hear the final testimony of these people who saw Rick or did not see Rick, or who saw Bridge Guy and saw whatever. I was talking the other day, like, who saw, at one point, I guess they said Bridge Guy did not have blue eyes, and people say that Rick does. The only people who got close enough to Bridge Guy were the teenagers. I mean, how could witness 4 from 50 feet away see that the guy had blue eyes or did not? How could the 357 driver see the eye color as they're driving by this man on 300? Hi, Malibu. Rick's concern for his reputation is interesting. I have no comment on that. CJK, a couple of YouTube retired cops say discovery can and often does come about often up to the time of trial. Well, we'll have to wait and see. I know that in the Alex Murdaugh trial, his OnStar computer, or sorry, his car data was finally turned over from, I guess, General Motors car company after the trial started. And that data was very convincing that he was guilty. Emerald City, I heard from 3 separate news outlets that Rick's wife was away at the hospital with her dying brother during that time. But he died. I don't know when he died, but he was definitely deceased by the time of the murders. Some people have said that Rick's wife was maybe with her mother as they were grieving in February 2017. Again, stay tuned for the trial for actual facts, hopefully. Not DB Cooper wishes he was at the cliffs of Moher, however you pronounce it, so he could push me over the side. We are at 1 hour and 43 minutes, maybe another 16. I'm exactly an hour behind comments. Sorry, let me just scroll over 30 minutes or so. Oh my God. Yeah, sorry that I missed so many comments. What are you going to do? Thank you, Bernie Byrne. Uh-oh, I missed. Oh, maybe it's 14-month anniversary. Aloha, Kevin. Source: 4 girls on the trail, not in a group. 3 were chatting. Missed suspect completely. Testimony false. 4th girl behind texting. She looks up and says hi. Suspect looks up and glares, looks down. Yeah, so there's these 4 girls around bench 2 they had to be there a few minutes before 126 to actually like say, let's take a picture and get set up or whatever. So from various things that I've heard, I'm not sure if it's true, like maybe these 2 girls were in the front. If they see like a man coming from the start of the trail, maybe, again, this is just speculation, maybe the younger sister since the trail was so narrow, she maybe stood behind the two taller girls, the older girls. And the fourth girl, the older sister, was maybe behind looking at her phone or doing something else. So the fourth girl is the one who said hi to Bridge Guy, which she said he like gave her a dirty look and stuff like that. Again, hopefully at the trial, I don't know if all four of these girls are going to testify. I would assume so. We'll finally get to hear their testimony. Beach girl. I don't know if this is true. So there's another like rumor that says like somebody named Skinner or something was the conservation officer that was friends with Rick, and Rick actually called him directly, maybe instead of the tip line. I don't know. That's a rumor. It says, and the conservation officer was retired already at the time of the murders, and Rick contacting him. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's true. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I've not seen that officially because in the PCA, it referenced Dan Doolin as the conservation officer, not Skinner. Hi, Merry Meditation. I'll be in Dublin at some point this year. Look for me. Or don't. I'm only there for 2 days and then 9 days in Rome. Thank you. Hi, Wampo. I think you're French. Are you in bed with your fiance still? Oh my God. Did you get married? That Japanese username means meow cat. Naya Nico. All right. Thank you for educating me. Hi, Cinder. Didn't Kegan Klein tell someone who's supposed to meet Libby there that day, but she did not show up, or was that a lie? We don't know if it was a lie by Kegan or a lie by law enforcement trying to trick Kegan, because it seemed like law enforcement never had an exact screenshot of a conversation where it said, where at least Anthony Schatz said, I was supposed to meet her, but she never showed up. It never said which day and which location Anthony Schatz said he was supposed to meet her. It seemed to be like one of these other girls that Anthony Schatz, aka Kevin or Kegan was talking to, told police that Anthony Schatz said he was supposed to meet Libby, and she never showed up. It's never been proven if Kegan truly did say that. So I know a lot of people hang on to that supposed fact as showing that Kegan was involved in the murders, but as I said, it doesn't seem like there's a screenshot showing that Kegan truly did say that. And we know that he talked to hundreds of girls and he only apparently met one in person. It's like, how is he going to show up looking like Kegan when this girl thought she was talking to Anthony Schatz? When Anthony Schatz has like a 6-pack abs and Kegan has an actual keg in his midsection. Hi, Mariah. You'll always be my subscriber, or not. I'm kidding. That's an inside joke. Yeah, lots of people think Rick is guilty, and lots of people think he's innocent. Jill think Rick has it coming to him. Can't wait for this trial to start. Yes, hopefully these family members and Rick and his family will finally get a fair trial and find out these facts after wondering for over 7 years. Kevin says the girls' bodies were displayed. Abby is cross-dressed. She was supposedly wearing also Libby's sweatshirt and Libby's jeans. The sticks deliberately placed. This is not interpretation. It means something to the perpetrator. Or does it? I mean, obviously, it seems like the Purdue professor said he felt like the sticks were somebody trying to replicate runes. However, as a member of a jury, I'm going to need like an expert to say the 3 branches on Abby were this rune. Here's a picture of the 3 branches on Abby. Here's a picture of the rune. Can you see how it matches this rune means this. The 4 branches on Libby, here's this rune. You can see it matches this. If nobody can show the jury which rune is on which girl and what it means, I don't know how they're going to convince the jury that Odinism is involved. Also, we'll see what the defense presents from the FBI, who said that Odinism was involved. We'll see. Beach Girl said, Rick seems like a bit of a recluse to me. Maybe not at that level exactly, but he doesn't seem like a real outgoing guy or had many friends. Or were you talking about me? Because that does describe me exactly. I'm not kidding. I have no friends. I'm not kidding. Only you people in the chat. In Rick's wife's Facebook, he never smiles. Like, not that that means he's a killer or anything, but I don't know. He supposedly suffered from depression for a long time, so I'm not like saying that anything bad about anybody who suffers from any kind of depression or anything like that, or who's introverted like me, although I do smile in pictures. I don't know. We'll see. Because I think it's interesting that some people are so like defensive that Rick is 100% innocent, yet we have no idea who this man is and like what he's capable of, what his personality is like. Obviously, his wife in the videos on her Facebook, she absolutely loves him. They've been married for over 30 years at this point. So she obviously likes him and he has qualities that she likes. So we'll see. Nevada Tan, I've just honestly never heard of a case this messy in terms of investigation. This is the only case that I've really followed other than Missy Beavers, and Missy Beavers' case just had the 8-year anniversary of being unsolved, and I don't know what they're going to do to solve it. And my only hope is that maybe law enforcement made a similar error where they did not follow up on a certain suspect that came up within the first few weeks of the investigation. But yes, it's so messy. However, I do try to be understanding, like it's a huge case, a huge amount of evidence. So I'm not going to act like I could have done any better. However, I do want to know how law enforcement organized this case, and in general, like how did it all go so wrong? 1 hour, 52 minutes. I'm still an hour behind comments. Maybe I'll go a little bit longer. Or not. I don't know. We'll see. Let me skip over a bunch more. While I take a Taco Bell break. I know this is awkward. How many people? 390. Hi, Heather. I guess Heather thinks maybe Rick is guilty. I really don't think Rick knew the bullet or the unspent round was there. Otherwise, it's likely he would have gotten rid of his gun. Either way, I don't think he knew he dropped it. Correct. If I'm not saying you're correct, I'm saying it could be a possibility. If Rick truly was bridge guy, and he did pick up the unspent round at some point, and it truly did fall out as he was moving bodies or branches, he would not have known exactly where it fell out. He may have thought it could have fallen out like 300 yards from the crime scene. So he had nothing to worry about. Also, he may not have known that this is supposedly a science where they can match a unspent round to a gun or a specific gun. So we'll see. Courtney, right. And if he did see the 3 girls or any girls, did they never follow up with the girls to say, was it this guy who lived on Whiteman? At this point, I don't think there were 3 girls around noon, and that is why police think Rick is involved. They said repeatedly, even in the first few weeks, we've identified everyone on the trails other than Bridge Guy. There's definitely, if there's a group of 3 teenage girls, they absolutely came forward to say we were on the trails around noon. and we saw a man enter the trails around 12:05, which would have been Rick. And when Liggett finally interviewed Rick on October 13th, he knew every single person who was on the trails that day. So when Rick, his first tip from 2017 says he was there from 1:30 to 3:30, and then he changes that timeline to noon to 1:30, Liggett's like, I know who was there on the trails, and there was not a group of 3 girls around the start of the trails at noon. So maybe he thought that is one thing that points towards Rick's guilt. Whether that is true or not remains to be seen. Obviously, the prosecution is going to bring that up if it's true that there was not 3 girls at noon. Hi, Ruby. Thank you. Heather says the Odin theory, which was based on 3 law enforcement officers and not something made up by the defense, is so stupid because it requires a group of people. Nobody reports seeing a group of people wandering through the woods that day. It's much easier to accuse another individual. Correct. However, I do want to see at the trial what law enforcement did to prove the alibis that these 6 or so Odinists mentioned in the Franks memo were not in Delphi that day. A very concerning thing that the defense brought up is that they have copies of search warrant applications or something for BH and PW, who are like the 2 main Odinists that are accused of being the murderers or whatever. But it said that those search warrants for their phone data was never submitted to AT&T, which is a phone company in the US. Why would law enforcement not do that? We know that EF, this other guy involved in this Odinist group, or whatever you want to call it, who told his sisters apparently that he was involved in the murders. The Franks memo referenced that his phone was not used between 10:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. on the day of the murder. So obviously there was a search warrant for EF's phone data. Well, I don't know. We'll see. EF said after this came out, EF on Facebook said something about like, how would I have gotten 2 hours from Rushville to Delphi? Did I drive a turtle? Because he did not have a car at the time. We'll see. Hi, Snail. Off the subject, but what do you think of Brian Koberger's alibi that he was driving around alone at 3 a.m.? I roll. Not to you, but to that alibi. I'm not really following the Koberger, Idaho case where he supposedly killed 4 college students. However, I think he's guilty, and he's stupid if he thinks he's going to trick a jury, but who knows? We'll see. Whoops. Thank you, Priscilla. We're at 158. I'll go to 215, but that's it. So only 16 more minutes. Let me skip over a bunch more. Oh my gosh. Way too many comments. Hi, Cryptex. Hi, Miss North's Musings. Are you talking about Judge Diener, smart guy to get out ahead of time? Yeah, he's like, peace out, like Roy says. Is that the peace sign? Hopefully. Hi, the Midnight Rider. The ignored tip narrative will most likely fall right at the feet of Tony Liggett, if anyone. Correct. Stay tuned. I don't know if that the truth is ever going to come out about it, though, to be honest. Hi, Cece. Cece is nosy like most of us. She looked up the property early on. It had been refinanced. I've seen some kind of document where it said something like maybe Rick's father-in-law sold the house to them for $1 or something. I don't know. I do know it was sold for $252,000, I guess, within the past year or so. maybe past 9 months, summer of 2023. But I believe that I don't think Rick's wife should have to give up that money just because to finance Rick's attorneys. But if Rick truly is innocent, hopefully he's obviously going to get millions of dollars if he's been falsely arrested, and he would deserve it if he is innocent. Heather wants to know, when are we going to hear about these other actors? That's my only question. If Rick did not act alone, where are they? Who are they? Hello? Well, exactly. Well, I said before, the other actors may have been because Rick's DNA did not match the crime scene. So law enforcement thought Rick was bridge guy, but maybe somebody else actually did the murders and was maybe waiting either down the hill or on the north side of the creek. It doesn't seem like if Rick was bridge guy, would he say to his attorneys, I was involved in some kind of scheme to do whatever to either Abby and Libby specifically or just two girls at the trails that day? As far as I've seen, Rick has never mentioned anybody else was involved in his incriminating statements, but it remains to be seen if maybe he did say something. This is a good point. Miss North's musings. People think with the initial affidavits that they've got the whole case figured out, but in fact, those are literally summaries and early stages of the entire case. The actual facts are not out yet. Yeah, so the PCA was before they even went into Rick's house or had access to his car, before they had access to his 16 phones, before they had access to getting swabs. They took 5 samples from his car. What was up with those samples? Why did they take a sample from 2 samples from his seatbelt, 1 from the passenger side mat, and I think maybe 2 from the trunk? Was it blood? Was it blood of Abby and Libby? Or were they just getting fibers because there were unknown fibers found at the crime scene, as was referenced in Ron Logan's search warrant? I don't know. Emerald City, can you do a poll? Who wants me to continue the live for 4 more hours? Maybe next time. Missy Elliott is taking a break from getting her freak on. Can anyone clarify this for me? I thought that the striations on a bullet can only be definitively linked to a certain gun if it was fired, aka went through like the entire barrel of the gun, not just like popping out from the back if you pull back the top. And ejected bullets can really only match to gun type. I recently looked up in one of these filings, it was referenced which like ballistics expert is going to testify on behalf of the prosecutor. And I watched like 1 or 2 live chats that he was on recently. I recently watched it. He was on it like within the past few years. He seems to really believe in this type of science. So stay tuned for his testimony and also for the defense to say it's not reliable. Xtina says Rick was an assistant manager at CVS. It's possible that position spent more time in the office doing cash outs and writing schedules and was not on the floor much, where these 3 girls would have recognized Rick if he was bridge guy at 1:30. We'll see. I'm sure the defense is going to ask these girls around 1:30, how often did you go into CVS, or how many times between 2017 and October 2022? We'll find out what their answer is. I'm hungry. How much more time? 10 more minutes. Hi, Baxter, if that's what your name is. Lala says, I also find it weird that all that commotion is going on in your area, but you don't bother to go out to offer a hand and see what's going on. Are you talking about Ron Logan at 6:30 p.m. when orange truck guy said those girls missing. Ron Logan is still sus to me, but in a guilty knowledge way. Yeah, I definitely don't think he was bridge guy. Whether he was at the crime scene at some point, I don't know for sure, obviously. However, in his search warrant or whatever, the affidavit, it said he was on the bridge or near the bridge at 2:09, also at the crime scene around like a few minutes before 8 and maybe a few minutes after 10 p.m. But it's recently come out, according to the prosecution, that that cell phone data can be as far away as 5,000 feet. So why is the FBI acting like it was more accurate and McClelland is saying it's not? Elaine Prost Abyss. Somebody's told me what this means, but I forget. Is it an author or something? I need to shut up. From the PCA, both the girls and Richard Allen talk about 3 girls. Only witness 4, yes, I don't like to say these people's names, talks about 4 girls she thinks she saw on the bridge while she was driving. Not reliable, in my honest opinion, that there were 4. I honestly disagree with you on that, because there was 2 sisters who had their photo taken at 126 on bench 2. At 12:43, another girl took a photo of the high bridge, which to me, I don't understand, because the PCA said they didn't reveal that until like March or something, or summer of 2020. Like, why is this 12:43 photo of the high bridge by these girls only being revealed like 3 years after the murders? I don't know. What's up with that? And there was a 4th girl identified. So if they take a photo at 12:43 p.m. of High Bridge, it takes about 15 minutes from the Freedom Bridge area to get to High Bridge. So what am I trying to say? To me, like, how do they walk past every single bench if they get there at least by 12:30 and never see Rick on a bench, on the trail, or on the bridge? How's the defense going to explain that away? If McClelland brings it up first. Missy Elliott, how many confessions, quote unquote, are recorded? Obviously, the ones to his wife. Were there any others? I don't know. There's rumors that he confessed to medical and mental health professionals at Westville. I don't know if those were video or audio recorded. Also, there's this issue where the defense is trying to not delete, but dismiss oral and written comments made by Rick at Westville. There's a rumor that he may have written to the Westville warden several times with incriminating statements. So stay tuned. I'll summarize it at some point. But to me, it's just kind of suspicious. So many different incriminating statements to a variety of people, inmates, potentially, his wife, his mom, medical professionals, mental health professionals, the warden, guards, like over a 3-month period. Like, that's kind of suspicious. Like, I can't say that it's not. It remains to be seen why he was saying stuff like that. Because people have said, even like people who have delusions, it's not like an effect of it is not really saying repeatedly, I was involved in these crimes and this murder that I'm charged with. It's more like crazy dream-like scenarios. However, I'm obviously not an expert in that stuff. Cindy, so the defense is going to try to use the FBI as their expert for Odinism, but then say the FBI is full of it with their geofencing hashtag data. Does it make a lot of sense? It's going to be interesting to see what the defense presents at this trial. Somebody said maybe this whole Odinism theory will be prevented from being presented at the trial even before the trial starts. McClelland might file some kind of motion to prevent it. I agree, Baxter. The timing of the lawyer visit and his losing his marbles is suspicious to me. So that was April 3rd. And the attorneys, I think, did not even go there on the 3rd. It was the intern and the investigator. Why were they there? Because the last discovery was handed over in mid-February. I know that on March 24th, Baldwin said he gave Rick about 1,000 pages of police reports. Was there something either on those police reports or referenced at this April 3rd meeting that Rick felt like if he truly was guilty and of sane mind on April 3rd, that there's something revealed that he said, I cannot explain this away. I'm going to be found guilty. I need to call my wife and my mom to say the truth. It's going to be interesting to hear also, not just hear, but see what his behavior was in his jail cell. And what were his conversations like with his wife and mom leading up to April 3rd? That's all going to be revealed at the trial. So did he slowly sound like he was losing his mind? I mean, that's a possibility. Was his wife and his mom saying, Rick, you're not making sense on March 30th? And so it would point to Rick maybe slowly losing his mind leading up to these confessions on April 3rd and beyond. Die DZ says they will probably play the confessions to his wife and mom at the trial. Probably. Definitely. We'll have to wait and see how the defense tries to explain it away. We're down to like the final 4 minutes. Newsflash. Hi, Danielle. Emerald City. I don't know if I can look at the fish from that far away. I'm not getting that close. I'm scared I'm going to fall over. This is a good point. Missy Elliott says, why can't they use cell data to see everyone who was in the area that day? They were able to do that for the Long Island serial killer and checked back years for that. What I suggested on Reddit was, why can't law enforcement do this geofence? So like geofence is like not you, but police officers will like on a map, they'll like outline an area and say, I want to know whose phones were in this area on this day between this time frame. So has law enforcement done that for Rick's home from noon or whatever, like the entire day? Is there activity on Rick's phone at his house at 1:45 to 4 p.m.? I'd like to see that geofence data for Rick's house on the day of the murders to show if he truly was there or not and when. Bernie is local to Delphi and says Rick was in a work environment at CVS. Very different setting from the trails. I didn't connect the two. Bernie, I probably won't even get to your comment. Did you ever interact with Rick at CVS or anywhere else? Danielle says, with everything focused on Rick, is anyone else really excited to see what the defense brings up on the other possible suspects? I really hope there's at least audio from this trial. Yeah, I hope we can at least get some kind of facts from what's being testified about and presented and not just secondhand from people in the peanut gallery. It'll be interesting to see, Danielle. In defense filings, Baldwin and Rosie have said there is significant evidence pointing towards BH and PW being involved in the murder. So there were certain things in the Frank's memo that did point towards potential involvement to me. However, I would not say it was significant evidence enough to show that they were there or truly involved, because I don't think PW or BH resemble Bridge Guy. We'll see. I'm already past the time that I said. I'm scrolling. Let's see. A few more comments. I'll do 3 more. High analysis of a crime with CD. He has his own. He's a former New York City police officer who has his own trial. What did you do wrong? His own channel on YouTube, analysis of a crime with CD. Koberger has some crazies that believe he is innocent on X/Twitter. Posted the alibi and an opinion, and the attack came. Well, we've learned that there's all different opinions in a case. Thank you, Beach Girl, for being nosy. Rick's house sold for $255,000 on August 2nd, 2023. All right, I won't count that as one of the final comments. Thank you. My mom was voted class wit and class clown. Maybe I'll do more than 3 comments. I'm getting to the good parts. Analysis of a crime with CD said, if the round was from a malfunction, it's going to be very hard to prove it's from his firearm. Yeah, I don't know that they even need this evidence. Obviously, if it's very good or solid science, that would be amazing to say that this guy's round was found 2 feet or whatever from these dead girls' bodies. However, we know that the defense is going to present a totally different theory or an expert. Hi, enlighten me. I think the other actors involved are anyone that may have had knowledge of what Rick did, but stayed silent. That could be true. It could have been about his wife having suspicions, because so many people have said, how could you not recognize your husband, his clothes, his stature, his voice on the Bridge Guy video? But as I said, obviously police never came to their door, so any suspicion she had went away. We'll see. Thank you. Yeah, I wish I had Taco Bell right now. I did get 3 chalupas a few weeks ago because somebody was nice enough to donate $5, although they're $5.29 per chalupa. But who's counting? The Midnight Rider. As the seatbelts slide on and off, they shear small fibers off whatever is being worn and trap them within the belt, as well as loosen fibers still on the clothing to fall off elsewhere. There's some kind of chemical called luminol. If you spray it on some kind of surface, anything, if there's blood, it will turn blue. So was blood found in Rick's car? Does it match Abby and Libby? It remains to be seen. Danielle says, but if Rick's confessions contain wrong information, like the girls were shot in the back, how valid is the confession? I agree. However, some people have said, did Rick maybe make a generic confession in March or whatever, where he did not include false facts about the crime scene? And then he realized, oh crap, I should not have said that stuff. So he kept confessing. However, he added false information to the confessions to make it seem like he truly was not involved and he lost his mind and stuff like that. It remains to be seen. DZ said, Danielle, maybe other crimes he committed. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. However, police have had Rick's DNA for a year and a half and have not matched it to any other DNA found at other crime scenes. So we'll see. Hi, CR. Do you love it when people type, there's a rumor that, well, at this point, I mean, for the past 7 years, it's been one rumor after another. And as all of you know, we've heard different rumors about the same thing. And obviously, only one can be true. And sometimes maybe they're all just false rumors, and we'll have to find out the truth at the trial. All right, I'm hungry, so we're down to the final 3. Hi, Sterling. Thank you. Yeah, thanks to all the grannies and grandpas. Where am I here? Hi, Alec, Trev. All right, three more, let's see. Nelson says, hi, Nelson. This has probably been answered, but how has law enforcement never definitively identified the height of Bridge Guy when they have the Snapchat video? On the wanted poster for a long time, it said 5'6" to 5'10". Obviously, people say Rick is between 5'4", 5'5" to 5'6", have all been released by various other like defense attorneys, which people would say is below obviously Bridge Guy. However, Bridge Guy was wearing a hat and a hoodie, and Rick said he was wearing a head covering and a hoodie, which could add, I don't know, 2 to 4 inches to his 5'5" frame, which would put him in the 5'6" to 5'10" range. I don't understand why law enforcement did not go out to the bridge with an iPhone 6, figure out where Libby was standing, and like before they go there, measure like 10 different people from 5 foot to whatever, 5'10". I don't want to say anything wrong. A variety of every single height, like from 5 foot to 6'4". Have that person stand where Bridge Guy was videotaped and come up with something more definitive than just 5'6" to 5'10". So I'm sure like the defense is going to question a lot of these various height, weight, and age range put out by law enforcement, because they said Bridge Guy was 18 to 40 and Rick was 44 at the time of the murder. So remains to be seen. I don't know what I'm doing that's making people laugh. Hi, Sandrine Emmanuel Seychard. Can you change your name to Sandy so I can pronounce it right? I'm not sold on the mental defect of Rick. I think he is faking. Faking? What? He's freaking faking? I don't know. I mean, as I said, I guess in last week's summary, obviously something is wrong with Rick's mental health. If he's going to the bathroom and then smearing it on his body and eating it, if you're truly guilty, why would you do that? I don't know, like what's his motivation to do that if he's guilty? Is he we don't know exactly when he was doing specifically that thing with the bathroom issue. However, it's horrible, even if he's innocent or guilty, that he's doing that. So we'll have to wait and see. I know that on March 31st, Dr. Westcott is going to be like the mental health person who's going to probably say on behalf of the defense that Rick, his mental health caused him to make fake or false confessions. That was dated March 31st of this year, a year after Rick called his wife and mom. So I don't know, as a member of the jury, it's like, how is this person analyzing Rick's mental health status from a year prior based on reports and other stuff? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if she actually examined Rick recently in March or whatever. Two more. Sorry. I'm sorry that you don't have more exciting things in your life, Emerald City. Nevada Tan, right? Second to last comment. Rick's phone would have connected back to his Wi-Fi in the house. Do you guys think that law enforcement did a geofence of his house? Or I think that's a fairly good idea. If he said he's there from 1:45 to 4, I don't know, can the defense try and do that? For people who know about these geofence warrants, like 3 or 4 months ago, Google said they are not going to be honoring these geofence requests from police anymore, because I think they're taking the data from like a server and putting it on people's phones directly or something like that. All right, final comment. What will it be? Amy. Hi, Amy. You're still here? All right, one final comment. Again, I'll do another live chat next Sunday with the latest summaries. I'll do two more. Hi, local man. Do you think the Kleins were involved? At this point, I say law enforcement had over 7 years to find something to connect them to Delphi, and obviously Kagan and nor his father have been arrested for Delphi. So at this point, I'm saying I don't think so. Final comment. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to go with a random one. Nevada Tan gets the final comment of today. Didn't that professor of Odinism, he's not a professor, sorry, I'm not saying you're wrong. He's not a professor of Odinism. He's like, he does like ancient literature and German and stuff like that. But he has an awareness of these older, whatever, vocabularies and stuff like that, similar to runes used in Odinism. Didn't that professor of ancient literature say his comments were taken out of context or something? Yes, he did say the defense took his comments out of context. Like he came out and contradicted the defense. There were certain things that he said were correct. However, as I pointed out before, he's never been able to say which rune which was on which girl, which to me is very important to present to the jury. All right, we're done. 2 hours and 26 minutes is long enough. Thank you, as always, to everybody who joined. Thank you to all the 5 people who donated some money. Or actually 3 people, and Tina and Marissa for being members for a long time. I'll be back here in 1 week at 4:30 Eastern with more summaries for whatever's going to come this week. Hopefully, justice and the truth will come in a month or a month and a half for both Abby, Libby, their families, and Richard Allen and his families. Bye.